My asexual life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual, and I share my asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. So you haven't already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Subscribe now and hit that bell icon so you never miss an episode. So I went out last night clubbing to a Diwali after party. Diwali is like an Indian religious festival type thing. I'm sure Indian guys and Indian people who watch this could explain a lot better. You can Google Diwali for yourself. So, as you know, I like Indian guys, I like Indian people, and I feel at home with them. And I haven't been well. I've had like a chest infection thing going on since the 26th of October. And I've spent most of 3 weeks, the last 3 weeks, indoors apart from food shopping. Yes, I did go to the cathedral, but that was on the way back from food shopping. So I briefly sat on the cathedral wall, which was good for me, but I wasn't there that long. Anyway, apart from going out food shopping, I haven't really been anywhere. And I saw this Diwali party pop up in my emails. And this was a few days ago, so like probably 5 days ago or something, and I really wanted to go to it, but I'm like, unless you're better, Sandra, you can't go to it because you can't go when you're not very well. And yeah, there's nothing like an incentive of being around Indian guys to hurry up and finish a lot of my work and be able to get better. It's a huge incentive, I have to say, because I was thinking every time I did my work, I'm thinking you can reward yourself then by going out to this party that I hadn't booked up until last night, because I did want to make sure that I was as well as possible and better. I wouldn't like I had stopped coughing, although I coughed a tiny little bit before I went out. But the night before I'd stopped coughing, it's like been my first night of not or day of not coughing anything up. And so I thought, oh, my books are falling down. I thought that oh yeah, if you didn't know who I am, Sandra Bellamy, by the way, that was a book reminding me to tell you I got this Asexual Perspectives book out on Amazon and Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook as well. So you can get those on Amazon. Going back to that, oh yes, I have fibromyalgia, which is relevant to the clubbing, as well as being asexual. So anyway, I then booked the club. I decided I must go out because I haven't been out for weeks, much apart from the food stuff. And that was not that long that I took to do it. And I don't want to become a recluse. And I was feeling disconnected from myself because I am a hyperromantic and I'm extrovert, asexual, and I need to get out and I like to live a young teenager life. I reprogrammed my mind to be like 21 years old years ago using neuro-linguistic programming. And if I've been indoors too much, I start to feel a disconnect, like I'm not having any fun in my life, like I'm not living my younger teenager self life. And it's like, what's going on? I feel like there's just something wrong. And so I hadn't done any writing for a bit, so I decided to do Diary Confessions of a Hyperromantic Asexual writing yesterday, and I've done some today as well, despite the fact I woke up and wasn't feeling great. But we'll come on to that. So I booked this party like less than 3 hours before it's due to start. And then I knew I'd have to rush around like a headless chicken, going in the shower and everything like that to get ready. And I was in and ahhing for a long time because I was like, you haven't been very well. You could get sick again because you've got an autoimmune condition and you're going to be in crowds of people. And sometimes a lot of the times in clubs, you have some vape, like, which is no good for my chest and respiratory system. But the other part of me is like, you need to go out, live your life to the max. You should not be playing small, living indoors. You should not be living in fear of getting sick or some other thing stopping you, right? You need to live as if every day is your last in that way. So because I got fibromyalgia, which is a chronic pain condition that affects the nerves and muscles of the body, there's a lot of people with a condition, they're on crutches or in a wheelchair or bedridden. They can't really do much with their lives. They're in so much pain. And I see this in fibromyalgia groups on Facebook. I don't spend hardly any time in them. I hardly go in them at all, but I am in them. And when I do see their posts, people are suffering with debilitating pain. I wrote this fibromyalgia self-help handbook to help other people to have less pain, more energy, and feel happy like a superhero rock star like me, because I live my life a certain way. I reduce pain purposely in 25 aspects of my life to be able to reduce my thyroid pain, to live a happier and more energetic life, right? And so I know that the condition can get worse and you can end up on crutches or in a wheelchair. And that is a threat to my freedom that I do not want. And I will do everything in my power to ensure I'm not like that. And I wrote the books, and everything I teach in that book is correct. And it's what I do to stop myself getting in that state. But I am aware it's a possibility it could happen to me. And therefore, I want to live every day as if that did happen. I know I would have lived my life to the max I could possibly live it before I end up in that situation, not being able to do the stuff I want to do in my life, you know? It's a bit like when you have an accident, which debilitates you in some ways, but you've still got abilities that had you had an accident that cut your full range of things off, you wouldn't be able to do those things at all. But you know very well that if you do injure yourself again or have another accident, then everything could be taken away from you. So you have to understand that with fibromyalgia, the way I live my life is like I live it to the max, because I know one day I might not be able to do that. And I'm so fortunate enough to be able to do that at the moment that I want to make sure I'm doing that as much as possible whenever I can. And I do not want to let my disability stop me doing that. Hello to the people who've just joined the stream. Hello to Jonathan in chat. Lots of love to you. And so this is why I do what I do. Like, one part of my mind is like, oh, but if you go out, you're going to get sick again because you've got an autoimmune condition. But I fight that. It's like, yes, I could get sick again, but I'm not prepared to live my life in darkness and fear and not go out and do the things I want to do in my life. I've been sick quite a lot this year. I haven't actually gone out that much because whenever I start going out again, I start getting sick. One of the reasons for this is because I have something that boosts my immune system that I can no longer get hold of. The distributor for the manufacturer doesn't distribute anymore because they said they can't distribute anymore due to regulatory reasons. There's no replacement. I double checked that recently as well, and nothing's changed. So clearly the health laws have changed somewhat. I don't know what's gone on there, but that's all they can tell me. And so I've had this product since a teenager. I've got 2 bottles of it left, but I usually take it every day. But 2 bottles, like 1 bottle only lasts like 3 weeks if I took it every day. 3 weeks, month max, usually 3 weeks. So I have to save those 2 bottles for when I need some immunity, but I can't take it regularly like I used to. So I used to have a low immune system even as a child. My mum said that when I went to school, the first year I was off nearly the majority of the time being ill. You know, I had nearly every childhood illness you could think of, which obviously means that my immune system was low. I had pre-birth trauma. My mum was in labor for hours, and I mean literally hours, over 12 hours. I think it was like 15 hours. She went into labor at 9:30 on the 23rd of April. I didn't come out till 3:27. I think that's it. On the 24th of April, that's why I'm born, on the 24th of April. And so, you know what I mean? Maybe that damaged my immunity. I don't know. But obviously, you know, I was pulled out by metal forceps either side of my head, which can't be good for my mind either. But I have an interesting mind, a great mind, one that's quirky, so that's fine. I also had an accident 3 days before my 12th birthday. Was knocked over by a moped and had damage to my head, but I hadn't, like, it was bleeding, but I had not one single stitch. So that was pretty much a miracle. Jonathan, in chat, that sounds awful. Any substitutes? Have doctors recommended anything else? It's not a doctor's. It's not a doctor's thing. It's alternative medicine. It's produced by a pharmaceutical company, but it's not got anything to do with the doctor. I saw a homeopath when I was 15 years old because I had a problem, and I was allergic to sugar, but I didn't know it. So I had no energy. I had tummy pain. I had tiredness over my eyebrows, heavy eyebrows like here. My stomach was stinging. I used to do a job for 3 hours a day and go home and go to bed. And my mum used to see a homeopath for ME. And when I went to see the same homeopath, he told me, because he had a machine that he tests on, that he's no longer on planet Earth, by the way. His wife is, but he's no longer here. but he's an amazing homeopath. Him and his wife used to be traditional work in the NHS, by the way. They used to be like working in a hospital. I think they both used to be nurses. I don't know if they both used to be nurses. One was a doctor and one was a nurse, but they both used to work, I think, in I know that they both used to work in the NHS in like hospitals, being doctors or nurses. I think they're both nurses. And so they were in traditional medicine. Then they went and he founded a clinic in Wales. And because I know they treated my mum and I was poorly all the time, like when I eat certain things and stuff. So I went to see him and he said, "You've got a sugar allergy. This is how I know I'm allergic to sugar." And he's like, you know, you shouldn't be eating sugar. But when I was 15 years old, I took no notice. I was pretty much a chocoholic. And a few years later, when I was 19 years old, I went back to this homeopath to see him because I was in a terrible state. That was when I was doing the 3 hour a day job. I wasn't doing a 3 hour day job at 15. I was at school, although I did actually have a part-time weekend job that I kind of like went to but didn't tell my parents about, but clearly they knew I was going somewhere. Weird stuff. Yes, I worked at the caravan cleaner. I don't know if I've ever actually admitted that to them. It's weird. And I worked at a pub that he did know about for a while, I think. Yeah, but I didn't do very well at it. They let me go without telling, with saying they don't have any vacant, like they were like it was too, like they didn't need the staff or something. And then the job was advertised a few weeks later, which I haven't spoke about. But I'm like, clearly I'm not cut out for bar work. This was like working in a pub. And seeing as I don't drink any alcohol, I would kind of like agree with that. Um, but anyway, so I'm digressing and I need to stay focused on the topic on the of the clubbing. But I'm doing the backstory because I'm talking about fibromyalgia and my health conditions and my immunity, right? And I want people to know that I actually do have a remote immune system way before I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is an autoimmune condition. And so yeah, at 19 I went back to the homeopath because I was very, very poorly. um, I'm going just Jonathan said in chat, I wouldn't be cut out for bar work either. Yeah, it's yeah. Um, so I went back to this homeopath at 19 because I was really poorly. When I left college at 19, and I was at that point when I went to college a chocoholic. I used to get every new chocolate bar that came out in the market. So there was a triple chocolate Twix, I think it was. There was a mint Kit Kat, an orange Kit Kat, and there was like all whenever a new flavor came out, I would just try it, and I would love trying the latest new chocolate bar that came out on the market, basically. And I used to go to the local shop outside the college and just go and get all these, well, get one a day or whatever it was, different chocolate bars. I was really a chocoholic. And when I left college, that's when I went into, well, actually, I worked at the Totnes Times newspaper for 3 months, which I don't think people know about me. I don't even know if I've ever spoke on this channel about that. So I actually went, first of all, into the editorial of a newspaper, which didn't end particularly greatly because the woman editor who I was working the editorial team, she stopped checking my work. And basically, they did let me go, which is not great to admit. But the reason for that, they said, was because I'd spelt some things incorrectly. So I used to get given things like cricket teams, local cricket teams for Totnes, and local news stories for Totnes. Bear in mind, I lived in Exeter and I wasn't very worldly. I'd lived at home with my parents for years, wasn't particularly interested that much in the news. And I didn't know anything about Totnes, the areas, or sport. And they came with me with the local cricket stuff. There was some famous literary person that I'd never heard of, and they gave it to me in handwriting. It wasn't like nowadays when you send email and you type it all out, press releases. It was like handwritten stuff. And I didn't obviously read their handwriting correctly. And she was checking my work to begin with, and then she stopped checking my work, and then I spelt something correctly and it went to print incorrectly, sorry, and it went to print. And then basically they let me go for that. So yeah, I don't talk about this stuff. I mean, like, it's a people could see that's a failure. I got to work in an editorial of a newspaper for 3 months. I actually got news stories for them, but they didn't put my name against it because they didn't want people to know that I'd written a news story. One was about a dustbin and refuge. That's what I mean. It's really weird. It's local news, and it was like basically because I've been taught how to write news stories while I was there. And I went out more than once because I had to interview these people as well. Like this, there was some people in Victorian costume. I really loved doing that type of thing. Because I wanted to work in the media, as in newspapers and radio. That's what I used to want to do. So I was, so to get a job in a newspaper at that time, I was really happy with. But it was taking all my money. It was only 4 days a week, and I lived in Exeter, and it was in Totnes, and every bit of money was taken up with my rent and food. That was it. I had no money left over. It was 30 hours, not full time, and all the traveling backwards and forwards with the train fare was a lot of money. And so yeah, I basically ended up writing stuff that wasn't correct because the spelling was incorrect, and so they nicely let me go, if you like. But but I did write some news stories. One was like a couple of Victorian people, like they were dressed in Victorian costumes, and I had to go and do a news story on that, which I really, really loved. And I did this one was a story about refuge that a bin outside a fish and chip shop, I think it was. There was something very significant. I think it was in the refuge was in the wrong place, and it was a council problem, something like that, and they hadn't done anything about it, and the litter was all over the place or something like I can't remember the exact story, but I think I was involved in 5 articles, something like that. And so I really enjoyed that because that's what I like, interviewing people and getting to the story, and I was taught how to do that in sequence. So it has been good experience. It was good experience. But after that is when I went into retail. And I've been in retail for the majority of my life ever since, doing different types of retail, like discount department store was what I first went into, and then I did them all top end. Like in the UK, it was like House of Fraser I eventually ended up in, and Debenhams I worked but in a concession in Debenhams, and then John Lewis was the last department I worked in. So it was like catering for different types of customers. One was bargain customers, bargain things, and one was like thousands of pounds worth of bedroom furniture, completely different ends of the scale. So it's good because I can talk to different people on different levels and from all different backgrounds and classes. That's good skills to have, and I know how to sell stuff, but it's harder, I think, selling stuff online sometimes than it is offline because I'm used to like speaking to customers in person. But I do like writing books. I love writing books. That's my passion. So that's what I ended up doing. Like I still like because I've told my story at Oxford University, right, which you haven't seen come out yet. You haven't seen the full story, but it talks about, if you've seen a clip, you might have noticed that I thought I was going to be a radio presenter. I thought radio presenting was my life purpose, and that's what I was meant to do because I went to a commercial radio station when I was 15 years old, and that's how I knew that I'm intuitively that I'm born to be in the media somehow, but I didn't know what I was doing. This is still true to this day. This is the one thing that stopped me getting stopped me, well, I shouldn't say stopped me, helped me even when I was depressed for years, because I was depressed even when I was a manager. And so, some people are like, oh, if you're depressed and got mental illness, you can't achieve anything in life, which is a load of rubbish. Because I was like a top performer as a salesperson, yet I was still depressed and sometimes suicidal. So it's just not true. I was a top performer against like really top stores when I was a concession manager for a furniture company. Like I at one point I was in the top 3 against the one that was just around the corner from where the factory was, basically, or their head office and factory. Yeah. So anyway, so I did work experience in radio. I've done work experience in radio, in newspapers before. I went to Taunton TV, I think, as well, years ago. I've actually been a paid actress as an extra on Torchwood series 1 episode 13. If you're ever into that, you can still see it online somewhere on YouTube. I was in the ad. So I have actually done paid acting work. I love that. It was really good. And I've been on Channel 4. I was part of a show called The TV Show with Christian Guru Murphy, who's a news reader, and it was live. And I was debating Big Brother. This is before I knew I was asexual. And I said at that time that I didn't like the show because it was too sexualized, and I was really against it. And everyone else in the audience was for it. And there was me debating against it, and everyone else was for it. So yeah. Oh, Jonathan, I watched all of Torchwood. End of Days was the episode I'm in. Go back and watch it, and you'll see a girl screaming and running away from the monster. and she's wearing a white PVC jacket. That's me. You can like someone actually found it on YouTube and they freeze framed it for me. And I'm like, yes, that's me. So yeah, I was filmed in front of a live studio audience in Cardiff, and it was from a professional radio. I'm getting my words mixed up tonight. Professional acting company. So I got paid for it, but the acting company stopped. It stopped like being an acting company. It dissolved. It decided not to be an acting company anymore just after I'd had that experience. So I could have got more and more acting work had they not done that. And the guy who ran the company, his daughter had been in ER loads. She was a regular on there. But she was filmed for this particular episode. I was filmed in 5 scenes plus I ended up in the trailer, but out of the 5 scenes, I ended up in 1 scene, but the trailer, and she didn't end up in anything that I could find. So I ended up in the trailer, and I ended up in the actual episode. And I had to scream in front of everyone, but I love doing that because I've got a loud voice. It was so me, the part. I had to run and scream away from a monster and look back like the monster was there and go, ah! I love doing it in front of everyone. It's just so good. I got told at 15 years old I should go to acting school by my drama teacher at school, but I didn't because I was shy back then. And they're like, you should go to drama school. She was that good. I took part in a group production, where there was this shipwreck and we had to bring one prop, and I brought my dad's spectacles, like old spectacles in. And there was a few survivors, and I was one of the survivors. And there was all these dead bodies. I always remember it. And I'm very good at getting into character of other people's minds and characters. So I was in this other character and I was playing it. And the drama teacher said to my parents at parents' evening, Sandra is so good. She should go to drama school, because basically I was gifted. I'm getting a bit tearful now thinking about it. I'm like, well, you were gifted, Sandra. You never took that gift, honey. But then I ended up in Torchwood, so I have done that, haven't I? Without going to acting school. But let's see who's in chat. Jonathan. Oh yes, that goofy monster. Did the shadow get you? I can't say, can I? Liam. Hi, beautiful Sandra. Hello to you. Yes, it was a very interesting monster with horns. I'm gonna get onto the clubbing thing in a minute. So that's kind of like the background of where I come from with my autoimmunity and some of my media. So in my Oxford University talk, which will eventually be on this channel, but they got to put it in the Blue Talks channel, and it's got to go on all their social channels, and it goes on Roku TV and stuff like that, which is amazing. Then it'll eventually come onto this channel, but they're about 6 to 8 weeks behind editing because they do talks in different areas, including in America. So it will come out later on, but after it's been on there, then I'll be able to put it on this channel. Then you can see my story. And so I used to think I was gonna work in radio, but I've ended up doing YouTube, which is so much better. So yeah. So yes, Jonathan, have a good night. Jonathan's got to go. That's fine. And so I want to continue. Yeah. So my immunity is lower even before I got diagnosed with fibro. And so if we go to the clubbing scenario, so I believe, because obviously I've got fibromyalgia, that I need to live life to the max, because I never know if I am going to end up on crutches or in a wheelchair with condition. I do everything in my power to not be like that, but there might be a time when I can't go clubbing anymore. So I need to maximize my time now on earth, and I like to live every day as if it's my last in that way. Like, what would happen if you couldn't, or what would happen if you were no longer able to do that, Sandra? Like, would you regret it? I'd regret all the times I didn't do it while I'm able to do it, right? And I don't want to live in fear that I've got an autoimmune condition and that every time I go out, I'm just going to get ill and I never do anything. So I never go anywhere, right? So anyway, I put the clubbing up. I went to the club, and I had to wait in the queue. There's loads of people that went really late because we had to be there. The cut-off time for getting in was 11:30. And I was in the queue just before 11:30. And there was people in front of me, people behind me, everyone was coming in around that time anyway. And well, not everyone. There was like half the people on the dance floor probably, and the rest of the half came in when I was coming in. Anyway, I got ID'd, which I was really happy about, because if you get ID'd, it means you've got to prove you're 18 years or older. And it was really funny because the security guard's like, ID, please. And I'm like, oh, I already had my ID because the first security guard said, you got to have your ID, guys. It's more important than your ticket. Get your ID out. So I have my ID ready in my hand. And then when he came, he's like, ID, please. And I loved it because I love the fact I get ID'd to see if I'm 18 or years or older. Because I think, yeah, I must look really young. It's great, especially when the security guard's so serious, like, "Get it out now." And I just think it's so fun. That's the second time I've been ID'd. I got ID'd at another, Bollywood well, it was an actual Bollywood party before, so I do love it when I get IDs like that. I just think it's really, really cool. I think some people wouldn't like getting IDs, and I'm like, "Yeah, bring it on." So that was a really good thing, and then I did a shorts video on here. I tried to do 2, I hope they came out all right. One looked like it's a bit in darkness because I was going towards the cloakroom. So anyway, then I had to put my bag in. So because I haven't been very well, I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to get sick again as much as possible. So I took my big coat as well as taking my smaller hoodie, like thin hoodie, not a actual full hoodie. It was like a silver thing that I wear sometimes, like zip up, to put over my top because I didn't want because I'll be very sweaty when I come out. I knew that. Then I didn't want the sweat to go on my big coat, just on the hoodie thing at the top. So I did that on purpose and thought it'll be extra warm, so I shouldn't catch a chill. So I went on the dance floor. I started dancing quite quickly. I was moving around the floor. The majority of the night, I danced on my own. The music was amazing. The crowd was incredible. The actual Unit 1, it was just stunning. I haven't been in that building for years. It used to be a different type of, well, it used to be a club years ago, but it was called something else. But it was amazing. The DJs were amazing. They had an Indian guy drumming on the drum to some of the music. The DJ was like really good on the mic and the music was pumping and they had these mirror balls up at the top and I've actually hurt my neck because I was busy dancing in the zone for ages and I was up like this looking at the mirror balls on the ceiling and there's different color balls and mirror balls and they were so amazing and stunning with the music. I just kept looking up because I was dancing on my own a lot of the time, you know. At one point, I was thinking, Sandra, you need to look around and smile at some people more because no one's going to dance with you unless you make eye contact or face contact and smile a bit, you know? Because like I'm in the zone because I'm trying to say like I'm okay if you want to dance with me, you can. If you don't want to, that's fine. I'm okay just dancing on my own. I don't need anyone. But then sometimes I'm like consciously aware of that and thinking to myself, yes, Sandra, but if you're like in the zone so much, you're feeling like you're gonna like other people are thinking they're not gonna be able to dance with you or to approach you in that state because you're going to look like you're so in your zone that you don't need anyone else and therefore it's going to kind of like maybe keep people away from you, if you know what I mean. So I consciously made a decision to like start looking around the room and smiling at people some of the time, you know, some guys, girls, because I just think that's better, and to just look around the actual crowd because it's like, you know, you're there, experienced people, and you know, maybe some people might want to dance with you and that's okay. If you know what I mean, if you want to dance with them, that's great. So I started doing that and things did change. I had some girls that were dancing with me just a little bit. And you know, I also had some well, I had a really nice Indian guy later on say something about my dancing. I think he really liked my dancing basically. And he said to me like about like he basically beckoned me to come over with his friends. So he got me to dance with him and his friends. And he did that a couple of times. I thought it was really, really, well, at least a couple of times. I thought it was really, really nice. There was an Indian guy I've seen before because I said hello to him, which was in his group. And he kept saying stuff to this Indian guy. And I don't know if he was trying to like get me and him to dance together or what. It was just weird because I couldn't understand what he was saying to me. He looked like he was saying, and the guy's like this or something and smiling. So I don't know if he's saying, "Oh, you two dance together" or something. I don't know. But the guy was bearded, but I've seen him before. He seems a nice person. Um, but yeah, the guy that was really friendly, that liked my dancing, that introduced me and got me to dance with him and his friends, I just thought I was so nice and kind of him. It was good because I wasn't hyper romantic over this guy. He had a little bit of facial hair. He wasn't bad looking. I really liked his shirt. I'm like, you've got attraction for his shirt, Sadri. He had like a white shirt on which had like feathers. It was like either blue or black, what looked like feathers. It might not have been feathers at all. That's what he just looked like to me. It might have been some other pattern that I don't even know. But anyway, I just thought he looked really nice and in his dress, and he was really friendly and really kind. He was the type of like Mr. Nice Guy type guy, you know what I mean? Different to the usual type of guys I would hang around with, probably Mr. Cool guys. Um, but I thought that probably he's more like the type of guy that I should be in a relationship with, but not him specifically, but more nicer, down to earth guy who's friendly and welcoming and just respectful, And so it's really good because at one point we were all in a like circle, him and his friends. I put my arm around them both and we were like dancing together in a circle. That didn't last long, but later on we repeat that again. And I was sticking my leg in the middle, like doing a type of like putting my like to the music, putting my foot in, putting it out, and they were all doing the same at the same time. It was so cool. They were all copying me. And at one point, I was doing that. I was doing both my legs backwards and forwards. They didn't do both their legs, but I was holding on to the two guys, so I was able to do that. But it's really nice. I think it was him and about 5 of his friends. But I just felt it's so good that he told them that I'm a nice dancer and that he got me to dance with him and his friends. I think that's really nice because this guy was good. He wasn't leaving his friends out. He was still very much dancing with his friends, but he was also bringing me into dance with him and his friends. And he's only just met me, and I thought that was really nice of him. I thought he seemed like a really nice Indian guy, and I really warmed to him in a non-hyper romantic way. So I thought it was really nice for me to actually be able to really like an Indian guy in an unhyper romantic way and really feel pleased to be around him and comfortable. Yeah. So I liked that about him. And that was really good. So that was one of the highlights of my night, other than being ID'd, as well as the music and the whole vibe, and the whole thing was incredible. So what wasn't so good? What wasn't so good is there was no ventilation there because they shut the main doors and loads of people were vaping in there. And the vape really affects my respiratory system and my chest. And after that, after I got back from the club, I wasn't feeling well. But before I go on to how well I wasn't feeling, I will talk more about the club. So unfortunately, a lot of people were vaping there. And because there was no air coming through the doors, right? I could feel it affecting me. So what happens, because I'm really sensitive to this type of thing, my lips ended up feeling like when you get an elastic band and you stretched it as much as you can stretch a rubber band. It's like my lips felt like that rubber. You know what I mean? When your elastic band has been stretched so much that you just got no elastic left in it. That's what my lips felt like. I was drinking some water from the bar, tap water, and I went into the toilet. I was having to put water on my lips because I could feel it. It's like rubber. It was horrible. And I could tell that the vape, and unfortunately, it's the most vape I think I've ever been around. There was so many vapors in there. So even if I moved to one place, usually there was still a vapor there. And that's really affected my chest and health since I got back home, which I will go more into. But I want to tell you about this incident that happened with this guy. So if you've looked at my shorts video, you'll know what's happened. But if you haven't, then you won't. Right. So towards the end of the night, there was this young Indian guy. He looked really young. I don't know how old he was, maximum of 21, I'd say. He was clean shaven. And first of all, he started saying to me, he started dancing with me and copying me. So he wasn't that close. It was a bit close. But he started copying my dancing, and I thought that's nice. He's trying to just dance with me, get into the vibe with me, and he likes me, so he's copying me. And then he said, "Can you show me some of your best dance moves?" And I said, "Well, not really, because I dance differently depending on whatever I'm dancing to. It changes." And he's like, "Oh, okay." So this was going okay. Right, I did think he was a bit young for me, but I was thinking, "Oh, this is going okay. He's just dancing with me." And then he said, "I like your top." Me being asexual thinks, "This is great. He likes my top. I'm nicely dressed. Why wouldn't he like my top? He complimented me on the way I looked, my outfit," I thought. So I'm there thinking, "That's nice." So I said, "Thanks," because that's how my asexual brain works. And then he said, "Can I touch them like this?" And I was absolutely horrified. I'm like, "No, definitely not." and he was talking about my breasts. He was talking about touching them. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'd said no to him, definitely not. And then I said to him, I don't come clubbing to do sexual things. I come to dance and enjoy myself. And he's like, oh, I understand. So I thought, okay, at least he asked me. He didn't just try and do it, but he was putting his hands towards that area. But I thought it was disgusting he even asked me. And I felt uncomfortable carrying on dancing with him a bit. But I thought, okay, we've discussed it. He said it. He's heterosexual, clearly very sexual. I've said no. That's it. End of story. So I'll carry on dancing. But I kind of felt like I shouldn't really be dancing with him anymore. But I thought, well, he has asked. I've said no. So, there's kind of like still been a boundary in place. And he's still respected that, I thought. So then he carries on dancing with me. And then he says, oh, shake your tits. And I said, I'm not interested and I need to move away from you. So then I moved right round to the other side of the dance floor because I was absolutely horrified. I'm disgusted with him. And so then I went in the most vapiest area possible. I mean, there was this couple, girl and guy, and they were both vaping and it was literally going past me. I moved back a bit, but then you've got Pete. Then I noticed one of the guys I hadn't mentioned before, this guy who said about my breasts, basically, there was another guy earlier, but I was actually in my own zone then. I wasn't particularly dancing with anyone. I wanted to stay dancing on my own for a bit, right? And I was enjoying myself. And I didn't even realize there was this guy stood in front of me, but he didn't do anything. He stood there and just looked at me. And he wasn't even probably looking at me. It was like he was looking, when someone like looks at you, but they're not fully looking you in the eyes, they're like looking past you like this. So I thought there was someone behind me. So I'm turning my head to look behind me. I'm thinking there's no one behind you, Sandra. I think he's looking at you, but he's not looking exactly directly at you. He's looking like either side of your face, the side of your head. And I was thinking, what's he doing? He just stood there. And it's like he stood there like a zombie, like this. And he's looking like Mr. Cool Guy with his leather jacket on. I mean, the aesthetically look, it might be the type of guy that I would usually go for, but he was really young, possibly a bit too young for me. And also, like his mannerisms, I'm like, I like a strong guy. I like a guy who's brave, comes out of the crowd, asks to dance with me, or at least makes a move to dance with me, and knows what he wants in life. Not a guy that stands there looking like a lemon. Since when has anyone had a healthy interaction with someone who just stands there and not says anything to you and doesn't do anything? I'm like, what's going on with this guy? And so I was just ignoring him in the end because I thought I just can't be doing with this. Like this is like there's no communication. He's not even speaking to me. He's not even coming towards me. He's just stood there looking vacant at me, like not even fully at me. It's like either side of me. I'm like, what's going on? And it's really weird because before, like, he went off, he put his shades on to look really cool. I think he probably thought that that was a last attempt to hook me or something. I don't know what he was trying to do. And I'm like, oh my God. But the guy who said that about my breasts, the not good guy, later on, he appeared to be friends with him because the guy that was Mr. Cool guy with the shades who looked through me basically rather than even at me, he was on there's like a platform that mostly just there was like a security guard that was looking up there some of the time, and then some older people, I think they were probably from the Asian Society, or the organizers or something. I don't actually know. And he ended up being up there, but he ended up saying something, or waving or doing something with the guy that was talking to me before he said about the breast thing. So I'm guessing, well, I think it was before then, certainly before the last bit when I walked off. And I think they might have been friends. And he was vaping really heavily then. So he vaped and it came down from above and went basically near me, probably over my head. And so it's like, I'd gone from that situation where he was vaping, and then I went round the corner to the other side of the dance floor to get away from this guy. And there was at least a man and woman both vaping. It was like right past me. I tried to move back a bit, but I think you can't go back exactly where he was. And then then you can smell other people vaping and stuff. So it was horrible because I was around towards the end, I was around a lot of vape. And I can taste it, and I can, my lips were just so dry. At one point, I had headache, and I didn't feel very well, so I ended up going to bar and drinking 3 glasses of water just straight down. That's how dehydrated I thought I was. So yeah, But I only had one meal yesterday. I didn't even have lunch. A lot of the time I haven't even been eating lunch. It's like I've been so busy. So it's just really crazy. But I thought it's disgusting, because I'm asexual. If a guy says he likes my top, I'm thinking he's talking about my clothing. I'm not thinking that he's on about sexual stuff. And I've been like that for years, but I thought maybe I should write a handbook for asexuals about what sexuals really mean when they say things, because that might be quite useful for asexuals that are going out somewhere. I do know one thing: if a guy like has kissed me at a club and then he wants to come back to my room and he says, "Oh," and I'm like, "I don't have guys in my flat, or I don't have guys in my hotel room," and they're like, "Oh, it's such a shame because I want to, like, what's the words they use? Basically, they say that they don't want to be without me in that time. They want to still spend time with me, and they make out that they'll miss me so much, right? They don't want to leave. But it's not me they don't want to leave. It's before we've had sex. That's what it really means. So if a guy says, "Oh, I don't want to leave you," because they want to come back to your place, it means I don't want to leave you until I've had sex with you. That's what it actually means. Please bear this in mind if you ever get into a scenario of dating a heterosexual guy, or being in a situation which you probably would never be in, because I'm only crazy enough to be a hyper romantic who kisses guys in clubs. But anyway, if you ever get into a situation, which could happen with dating a lot, and a guy says, it's common for a guy to say this, "Oh, but please, I just want to come and spend time with you. I can just kiss and cuddle you because I just want to be with you." It means I want to be with you, to have sex with you. I've actually been in a couple of scenarios in my past life where I've had a guy back to my. I say my past life because it's before I found out I'm asexual. I've had a couple of scenarios with two different guys where they have come and slept in the same bed as me, and I wouldn't have sex with them for the whole night, and then they leave and you basically don't see them again. Well, one of them I didn't see. I think the others stopped seeing me after that because I kept saying no, even though he's like kept going on. I'm like, no, 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 right? And so yeah, that's what. And one of them's like, "Oh, I'll call you again later, we'll meet up again." It's just they don't, because it's just lies. Unfortunately, so yeah. That's what it actually means in these scenarios. I'm not saying if you've been in a long-term, serious, committed relationship with a heterosexual that's what it means. A heterosexual that doesn't pressurize you or need sex from you. I'm talking about guys that you don't know very well or hardly at all, you only just met, and they say this thing to you, especially if you're on the dating scenario, met a guy in a club. I'm not talking about if you're in a romantic, actual relationship with someone. But just be warned, even though I'm on Badoo lately, which, well, I've been on Badoo for a while, but I've got been given premium for free. They upgraded me for free, not premium plus, but premium. On Badoo, there's guys that say they're looking for a serious relationship, but which aren't very many that say that. Most of them are to date or chat, which clearly means they're not looking for something serious usually. And the ones that are saying they want something serious, most of them are not really serious. You know, they're just lying to basically get with someone and have sex. So you got to be so careful. I'm not saying everyone's like this. I'm just saying, watch out for it, because even the ones that say they're ready for a relationship, they really aren't, a lot of them, and it's just to lure people in some of the time. And sometimes it's just because they're ignorant and don't realize they need to improve themselves in order to be in a relationship, serious committed relationship. They just like the idea of a relationship. But there was a guy earlier, a 21-year-old guy, and he liked me on Badoo. And he seems ready for a relationship. He had nothing in his profile, basically. I don't know if he was a smoker or not. I'm guessing he probably was. I don't know if he wanted kids someday or not. I'm guessing he probably did. And in his profile, all it said was, "I'm looking for a serious relationship. I think it said something like, I can't see all messages and likes here. So if you can't get hold of me here, contact me on Snapchat." Right? And I said to him in a message, thanks for, because he said, sent a message to me. I said, "Thanks for liking me, but I've just basically looked at your bio and I don't think you've read my bio." Or did I say I looked at his bio? I said, "Oh, thank you for liking me, but I don't think you've read my bio, because if you did, then I think you'd find we're not suitable." And as soon as I said that, He then, like, cut me off, obviously, because he's not suitable for me, which is fine. It's good he did that, and deleted me off his messages. Because these people, they're not looking for something serious, even though they say looking for something serious. A lot of them aren't. If they haven't got much in their bio, then how can they be serious? If you're looking for a serious, committed relationship and you're intentional, which you should be intentional if you're serious and want a healthy relationship, you should be very intentional. You usually have something in your bio, like what you're looking for, your hobbies, your interests, what you envisage for your future. And you've usually got quite a lot of things that you like and that you've put, like, I want marriage, don't want marriage, want kids, all these type of deal breakers, right? Some person who's hardly put anything in their profile, they're just usually looking for something casual. Some might even already have relationships because they want the least amount of effort putting in as possible. And you can't have a healthy relationship with someone who barely puts any effort in. It just doesn't work that way. So a lot of these people on dating sites, unfortunately, the majority of them aren't healthy people, or at least on Badu and Facebook dating, and other ones they're not, so you have to bear this in mind. But a lot of them are avoidant attachment style, which means they avoid getting close to people, they avoid talking about their feelings and emotions, they avoid dealing with conflict. And in relationships, healthy friendships, all relationships, you have to be able to deal with conflict. You have to be able to open up and be vulnerable, and to be able to share feelings, thoughts, emotion, and express yourself. So if you've got childhood trauma, which is where that usually comes from, you need to work on that, because you can't have a serious, committed, healthy relationship if you're avoiding being vulnerable, avoiding sharing feelings and emotions, avoiding being close to someone, because you're just going to push them away, right? So that's something you need to work on. And if you're not prepared to work on it, don't say you're ready for a relationship. Sort yourself out. We should be working on these things all the time. You're not going to be perfect. That's fine. But you need to be working on these things and realize that it's an issue and a problem that you need to solve. Someone else can't solve your avoidant attachment style for you. You need to do that. Right? So you need, realize that if it's come from childhood trauma, most of it has. So that's not your fault. But what is your responsibility now is to make that change within yourself by getting some therapy, which is nothing to be ashamed of, by getting some help, by you find out tools and techniques that can help you become more securely attached and more vulnerable and open and honest and more enjoying closeness. It's something you just need to work on and get better and better as time goes on, so you can be better for yourself, better friendships, better connections in general, and a healthy relationship. That's what it takes. But unfortunately, a lot of the world is very sexual. And I think when you're an asexual person, one of the huge benefits is because we're not focused on sex, we do focus on other things and aspects of ourselves. And I think, even from being in my own asexual groups, there are some people that are working on themselves. They understand they've got trauma and attachment styles, and they're working to become better human beings for themselves and in a relationship. And that's one of the things I do like about asexuals is some, not all, by any means, some are very, very avoidant in the asexual community. But some are working on themselves. They realize they've got this difficulty. And I often find that a lot of introverted people do come across to me as having an avoidant attachment style. And one of the things that's made them introverted, if you like, or why they're introverted, is because they've got an avoidant attachment, because they fear being too close to someone, because probably when they were young, their parents or caregivers, whoever looked after them at the time, were emotionally not there for them, and the parents were just not available at all, so the kid had to fend for itself, and so it's not used to someone being there in a relationship with them, and they find that smothering and want to push them away. So obviously you can get a different attachment styles, like anxiety, anxious attachment. An anxious attachment person and an avoidant attachment person really don't go together at all. They're the opposite of each other. And a lot of people on dating sites are avoidant. I'm an anxious attachment, although I've worked on myself a lot, so I haven't got all the difficulties that I had years ago with anxious attachment. I'm a lot better in some ways, but I do have an anxiety condition, generalized anxiety disorder. I do have some anxious attachment. and I know that about myself. So if I have a guy who's avoidant attachment, that's just not going to work. Literally, you end up rubbing each other the wrong way. An anxious attachment needs to spend time with the person and reassurance. The more that an anxious attachment person wants to spend time with that person, the more that avoidant person feels smothered and they want to go away from that person. The more an anxious person wants to sort problems and issues out because they're anxious to get it sorted, the more avoidant wants to avoid them because they don't want difficult conversations and conflict. So these two people are just complete opposites with each other. And, like one feels smothered, one feels left out and lonely. One feels like, I want to push you away. I don't want to deal with this. The anxious feels like, I want to come running and let's deal with this now. It's just two completely different attachment styles. And so you have to look at both of these things when they occur. And obviously, like on a lot of dating sites, is avoidant types. And you can end up meeting these guys in nightclubs as well, because nightclubs are renowned for people meeting up and hooking up, as are a lot of dating sites. So when you're asexual, you need to bear this in mind. And one of the things I've discovered through a lot of the research and continual knowledge that I learn about dating and relationships is really you should be finding out what attachment style that person is. That's one of the most critical things to see if you'll be successful in dating and relationships in a healthy manner, is to find out what person's attachment style is. And usually they're not even going to know it. But the way you're going to know this, or probably know it, is if you study attachment styles yourself. You can Google this and you discover the characteristics of it. And then the people that you come across, you can see if you think they're avoidant or not. If you're avoidant as well and you get with another avoidant person, that's not probably going to be a healthy relationship at all, but you'll be better off than an anxious and an avoidant person a lot of the time, because anxious and avoidant are just completely opposite. And you just really rub each other the wrong way because you're going in opposite directions. Anxious is needy, avoidant is getting smothered. Anxious needs reassurance, avoidant person doesn't want to give the reassurance all the time. They don't want to be getting too close to this person, right? It's just like not good. Like an anxious person can feel lonely, left out, and miserable. The avoidant can feel like overwhelmed, smothered, want to go away. These people, they just don't go together. And you can end up in friendships like this as well, which is why a friendship with avoidant and anxious can end up not being a healthy friendship, because you're just two different people. Both of you have to sort your issues out. Both of you are not securely attached, neither of you. So you've both got difficulties that need to be worked out. And you should be working on these before you get into a relationship, because you can't have a healthy relationship unless you've worked on at least some of these things and keep working on them, right? You're never going to be perfect, but that's okay. But the fact you've even tried to work on it and understand the difficulties that come with your attachment style is helpful to the other people in your life and to you. So that's what dating sites lack. They lack finding out the attachment style of people. It's not something that crops up as a question. So even if you've had different life experiences and you like a lot of the same things, if your attachment style is different, then in terms of unhealthy attachment being different, then it's not good. Ideal scenario is that an anxious or avoidant attached person gets with a securely attached person, because a securely attached person doesn't need the reassurance that an anxious person would need. They don't need like someone to be there for them all the time. They can be in the relationship, present for the relationship, or they can spend time with their friends and other people and not need that regular connection as much, if you know what I mean. They're just more cool on their own or in the relationship. They can be both. So they're more laid back, more relaxed. Either is good for them, this type of stuff. So they help with an anxious or avoidant, because with an avoidant, they don't need the avoidant to tell a reassurance them. If the avoidant wants to spend some time on their own, they're fine about that, because they're like, well, I got my friends, my work, my hobbies, my interest, doesn't bother me, do what you like, type thing. And of course they would still want healthy stuff, because if the avoidance is just not healthy, then the secure person probably won't even like, after a while, they just won't tolerate it. But with an anxious person, the secure person is so secure within themselves, they can provide that extra reassurance that the anxious person needs because they're so confident and self-assured, they don't need to be assured themselves. Liam, you deserve the relationship you want, Sandra. Oh, thank you. Lots of love to you, Liam. Thanks for being here still. Appreciate you. Yeah, so yeah, these are some of the difficulties that we've got to overcome as human beings and people. And the more we try to strive to overcome them and understand ourselves, the better the world is. Apparently there's only about 50% of the population that's secure, so there's not going to be a secure person for everyone to go around who wants one. And I think gender ratio is different as well. I think there's X amount of gender to another gender. So yes. But so anyway, after the club, I went home, walked by myself. This is after 3 a.m. I said that it was only on till 2:30, but it was like 3 when it ended. So I got home just before 3:30. I messaged my best friend on Facebook just for him to let him know I'm home safe. But then I had to go in the shower, but my head was so hot. My head was boiling. And I was, and because I was like, I had all that vape stuff, chemicals, it's real bad for the body, in my mouth. Before I got home, I was literally coughing up in tissues, spitting, I should say, stuff in tissues to try and get the taste out of my mouth. It literally tasted, like if you've ever been in a really smoky room with cigarette smoke, like years ago when they used to smoke in public places, cigarettes. You could feel like your mouth was like an ashtray. It's like that, equivalent of that, but in vaping. And so my mouth was just disgusting. My lips were like a rubber band, like this, felt like this. And I could taste all the vape in my mouth, like I'd had a ton of vape myself. And I was just getting tissues out of my pocket. I was spitting into the tissues, obviously not on the floor, but spitting into the tissues. And I was trying to get as much out as possible because I just don't want to get sick again. But it was not a good sign that I was hot, and it was not a good sign that I had this. So I got home, and this is what I used for my sore throat while I've been sick before I went, because I've been poorly with a chest infection for 3 weeks. I didn't want to get sick again. And what happens usually if there's vape, it usually goes down the throat first, then becomes a chest or respiratory infection. So the throat's the area to target. So I got this Cavonius throat spray. I sprayed a load in my mouth, and I used it to spray all around my mouth, gargle with, and swish around my mouth like a mouthwash, in the hope that that would kill any bacteria from the vape off. That all the chemical crap that comes out of vape. So I did that, and I had cough medicine too. And after I'd been in the shower, I had 2 packets of crisps to replenish salts in my body that I probably lost because quite dehydrated I felt, because I had headache up from ear pain all the way up to my head. Because when I get when I get head pain, like headache, like migraine, it comes from my ear. It's really weird. I've always done that. It goes like from my ear upwards. And I had it there. And so yeah, but I was really, after I'd had my shower, it's really hot. My head was boiling. And my cheeks were boiling, but my body felt cold, and I just kept putting more and more clothes on. Like I've got like 3 layers of clothing. I've got this on, and I've got a top and a nightshirt because I was just so cold. I had to put this on as well. And then I had big, thick socks. Where are my socks? Oh, I'm going to lean over now, push you back a bit. Then I had these socks on in bed because I was like so cold. And I was like, but my body was hot, my head. And I thought, I've clearly got like a fever or something. I've definitely got a temperature, if not a fever, definitely a temperature, a high temperature. And I was like this, and I didn't get to sleep for a bit. I was watching YouTube videos because I just felt like really unrested and unsettled. But I was like really cold in my body. I put the dressing gown around me as well in the end, and put all the blankets around me, but I couldn't go to sleep for a while. And then yeah, so I feel like I definitely had a temperature for hours. 4 hours, like I had 4 hours sleep, then woke up and couldn't go back to sleep for a while. My neck was really hurting. I still had headache. I've literally only just took an ibuprofen around midnight tonight because my neck pains a lot, and because I've had head pain quite a bit, and so yeah, so it's like a fever type thing and chills. And then I was coughing a little bit of yellow stuff up as well, which is gross. Sorry that I told you that. I just told you. And my voice does start going, which is starting to go now. I've done well to do this stream for as long as I have, because sometimes my voice starts going. So I'm potentially sick again, but I don't want to say that. I'm hoping I'm going to get better, and I'm not going to go full into a respiratory or chest infection again, because I've got Disney on Ice 100 edition, 100 years celebration basically on Thursday this week. This is now in 2 days' time. It's already been booked up for ages. Got the ticket and everything. So I still intend to go that. But usually with me, before I come out to be fully poorly, it takes up to 72 hours. But last time when I felt unwell, was the 26th. And I got poorly, I think, because one of the speakers was very, very ill on the 26th. Sat next to me. 25th, sorry. No, 24th. So I spoke at Oxford on the 23rd. And I was a member of the audience on the 24th, and I was sat next to someone who's very poorly, speaker, and I hugged her after her, because she did a really amazing talk, despite the fact she was really poorly. And I just said, "Oh, you did so well," put my arms out, and then we had a hug. And she was basically full of flu, which I think was a chest infection now, because I know her on Facebook, and she's been coughing a lot and everything. So I basically think I got it from her. She didn't mean to give it to me, but obviously, if I got close body contact like that, then it's pretty much bound to happen. And so that was on the 24th. So spoke on the 23rd, went up to Oxford on the 22nd, spoke on the 23rd, audience member. I was audience member on the 23rd as well, but the 24th I was just an audience member. And then the 25th was when I came home, and the 26th, the day after, is when I got poorly. Well, started to get poorly. But I didn't fully get poorly till a few days later, because I went to the aquarium because I wasn't feeling too bad. And when I went to aquarium in the morning in Plymouth Aquarium, I was feeling okay, like reasonably fine, quite a lot of energy. But by the time I got back from Plymouth Aquarium, I was really not feeling well at all. So so I feel like I might, well, clearly a temperature is not normal. Clearly a temperature is usually to do with the fact you've got some virus or something, or some infection, virus infection or whatever. So it's not good that I had that. And I've had headaches for the majority of the day today. And when I was doing food shopping, I was feeling really tired. My legs are killing me. But then obviously I've been clubbing for ages. I haven't been dancing for like weeks. The last time I actually went clubbing before that was on the 23rd, the night of my talk. And so I haven't clubbed for nearly a month. And also the food I usually have that helps my body pain, I hadn't had much of it in the last couple of days before I went clubbing. So that can end up being painful as well. But I feel like generally more tired. So I think I might be not so well again, because I have been feeling a bit poorly today. But I don't think I'm fully in the thick of it yet, and I hope I don't get that way. I'm trying not to, with having throat spray and stuff like that. But I mean, at the moment, like, you've only just heard my voice start going croaky, but I've had that when I was messaging my best friend earlier. It went like that then, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to stream when that happens again. So I'm praying for the best. I'm praying that I stay well until at least Thursday, but considering it's up to 32 hours and Thursday's out the 32 hours and I've not been feeling well today and I've had a temperature for hours, then because after I woke up after those 4 hours, I still had a temperature as far as I remember, because it was only after I went to sleep at another time after watching some YouTube videos that I was able to finally stop feeling like I had a really high temperature. But even now I've got hot water bottles. These they wrap around you, by the way. I did a shorts video on this, by the way. These are hot water bottles. They wrap around you, so you can put your hands in here, right? And these wrap around your body. So yeah, you can see me modeling these in one of the shorts videos. So get one of these. But yes, I don't think I'm very well again. But I'm hoping I'm not going to be as bad as last time or get worse, because, I've been poorly for like 3 weeks before I went out last night. But I think it's to do with the vape predominantly. Having said that, I picked up some tablets off the floor, which I thought was my ibuprofen that had fallen out of my bag when I was in the cloakroom. And then when I got home, I realised there's Sudafed. Now, Sudafed is usually something people take when they're poorly, as far as I know. And so I'm like, great. So at least someone went there knowing they're sick. Definitely sick. So yes. So obviously being around a load of students in a crowded place is not gonna be great, but I think it's a vape that's probably done my chest in, I would have thought, and my respiratory system. I'm hoping that I don't get fully sick, but I know that I'm not fully well at the moment again. So, but I'm still gonna go to Disney on Ice, even if I'm not fully well. Well, I just hope that I stay well enough to go there, you know? So anyway, yeah, so I feel a bit more energy drained at the moment. My legs are really killing me. They feel like they've been mangled, but that's quite normal with fibromyalgia when I don't eat the product that I should be eating to soothe my pain and when I've been out clubbing and I haven't been for ages. But I think it might be a little bit more than that because I might not be totally well. But anyway, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed the asexual perspective of when the guy said he liked my top and I didn't realize what he really meant. And I hope you've enjoyed learning a bit more about my backstory, my experience in radio and newspapers and stuff like that. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode. Like this video, give it a share if you want, and I'll see you next time on the next video live stream. Lots of love. Bye.